At Space World 2000, there was a tech demo shown off called Super Mario 128. It was a proof of concept for a game that had up to 128 Marios on screen at once, and you'd be able to interact with them. And this was basically made to show off how the GameCube could render many player characters at once. While this game never materialized into its own thing, its ideas were stripped and taken and used for other projects. One of these games ended up being Pikmin, released in 2001, near the launch of the GameCube.
Now, I'm no stranger to the Pikmin series. I've been playing these games since around 2011, 2012, around when the Pikmin 1 re-release for the Wii came out. You know, in case you couldn't tell, it was the Wii version with this gaudy branding. And I've gone on to complete some of the many sequels and spin-offs that Pikmin has gotten. But now with Pikmin 4 on the way, as well as the new ports that Pikmin 1 and 2 have gotten, I thought now would be the perfect time to give my opinion on the Pikmin series. Now, while this video is a review of the Switch version of Pikmin 1, I will make some little mentions about the GameCube and Wii version, those little differences. But primarily, no matter what console you play Pikmin 1 on, you're gonna get about the same experience. So, with that being said, let's get into Pikmin 1 for the GameCube, Wii, and now Nintendo Switch.
Pikmin stars Olimar, captain of the SS Dolphin, which, believe it or not, was actually named after the GameCube's prototype name, which they called Project Dolphin. He finds himself in trouble after hitting a meteor on his way home from a vacation. We see his ship spiraling out of control towards the nearby planet, which now is called PNF 404, but technically that wasn't coined until the third game. So for this game and the next game, I'm just gonna call it the Distant Planet. Plus, you know, I think that name kind of sounds cooler, so the Distant Planet. He awakens in an area that he later dubs the Impact Site, realizing that the poisonous oxygen in the air will kill him in 30 days if he does not get back all 30 parts of his ship. Just wondering how he's going to get all these parts back, he looks around a bit and finds what seems like an onion to him. Now, I'm not really sure what kind of onions he's looking at, but, you know, he's an alien. He's like the size of a GameCube memory card, so we'll let it slide. Now, this onion spits out a seed, which after plucking introduces the red Pikmin to us, which was named by Olimar for its similarity to his favorite Pick carrots from his home planet of Hawkatate. He then finds that this Pikmin is following him around everywhere, and by commanding it to pick up and carry pellets back to its onion, it can create more of itself. With that in tow, he eventually stumbles upon his main engine, which, when carried back to the ship, makes it do a little backflip and fix itself up a little bit. And while it's not much, it does allow him to travel into later areas to find the rest of the pieces. On his journey, he faces tougher and tougher foes, but he's not alone with just the red Pikmin, as he finds two other types of Pikmin, being the yellows and the blues respectively. While it's a game that might lack in complexity in terms of story structure, there is a lot of character given to our captain himself. Olimar is very much like an unhero. He's really just a victim of circumstance. And you see a lot of this in his journal entries at the end of each day, showing little bits of character that other Nintendo games beforehand never really explored. On some days you see him talk about missing his family, on other days you see him expressing grief over a Pikmin that he killed due to his or your own carelessness. Sometimes he'll talk about formulating strategies, which are really just in-game tutorials. He'll also briefly tell you about each part of the ship as you collect it, its name and function being described by him. This is something it really never comes up as prominently in the series, is highlighting this loneliness of being stranded on a planet like this. While Olimar's like going through all this chaos, every night he's just wondering if he's ever going to see his family again. It's really sad, and something I think the sequels very much miss out on. But I'll save that complaint for when we eventually talk about the later games. What's really important is the gameplay, so let's talk about it. So, Pikmin is a real-time strategy game. For each in-game day, you'll be dividing and conquering with your Pikmin battalion, where you can have 100 of them out in the field at all times. Like I said before, you have 3 different types of Pikmin. The red Pikmin, who do the most damage in battle. They can also resist fire, so in cases where the path back to your base is covered in fire traps, these Pikmin would be your best bet. Then there's the blue Pikmin, who can swim, I guess, or resist water. I can't exactly call it swimming because this is knee-high water, man. I think the other Pikmin are just really stupid. But yeah, they resist water, and you can take them into any place with water, or if you need to get back to your base through water. These guys are really going to be your best bet. Plus, these guys are really useful in the later areas of the game, where it's just half of the map is water. So yeah, having a lot of blue Pikmin by this point would be a good idea. Last and least, we have the yellow Pikmin, who you'd think with the elemental resistances of the other 2 Pikmin, it'd be something like electricity that they resist.
Wrong!
But what they do is they're able to be thrown higher and can carry these things called bomb rocks, which can do a lot of damage to enemies, but it's mainly used for taking down these types of walls that you'd otherwise not be able to take care of. And yeah, when I said least, I was not kidding. These guys are freaking useless. You really only need them a handful of times in the game, so you can really get by most days with using 10 or 15. There's 2 cases where you really need them, and it's the final boss and another boss, which, yeah, good job, you have 2 uses in combat. Now go get me that Libra, you motherfucker. So with all these different Pikmin types in hand, you'll get to explore at least 5 different areas where your skills will be put to the test. There's the impact site, which is really just a glorified tutorial area, but it's a good place to go if you need to raise up some Pikmin. It also contains 2 optional bosses, but these guys are so inconsequential, there's really nothing to talk about them. This guy, the Mamuta, has a slight importance later, but that's about it. The next area you'll go into is the Forest of Hope, which is a bit more open, although it does kind of just tunnel you into the yellow Pikmin area. I will say it is obviously a lot more open than the impact site, and it also gives you a good opportunity to practice fighting with some smaller and bigger enemies. If you know what you're doing, you can actually get most of these ship parts on your first run here. The area also contains 2 bosses, if you could really call them that. Pikmin doesn't really have bosses in the traditional way, they're more so treated like environmental hazards, which I actually do kind of like, and it really goes to show this is just an exotic planet, and things are not exactly laying out as a level. You're sort of just exploring a piece of land with things to find in it. But these 2 bosses you'll find are the Armored Cannon Beetle and the Burrowing Snagret, which both are kind of a pushover if you use reds or you know what you're doing. Once you score some ship parts from these 2 areas, you'll face the Forest Navel, which is kind of my least favorite area in the game. It's very dark and drab and kind of boring at times. The place is littered with fiery blowhogs, which, in the name, fiery. So if you don't want to take them out, I'd carry a lot of red Pikmin with you. What I will say is good about this area is it's a really open area that you can kind of just explore things at your own pace. And you're not really tied or tunneled into doing things specifically, like in the Forest of Hope or the Impact site. This is the area where you'll find the blue Pikmin and a few bosses. Could you really call the bread bug a boss? He's an absolute joke and dies extremely quickly if you beeline to the object he carries. He's also one of the few optional bosses, as the space flow is not actually required to beat the game. But I'll talk about that kind of stuff momentarily. There's also Beady Longlegs, who can actually cause you some trouble if you go in with a lot of Pikmin. It's one of the few places that the yellow Pikmin actually have a use, like I was talking before. Then lastly, there's the Puffstool, which is an absolute joke if you have any red Pikmin at all. He can poison or mushroomize your Pikmin, I guess, but I never have it happen to me. All in all, yeah, it's okay. The final area that you'll really be exploring is the Distant Spring. It's probably my favorite area in the game, actually, as it's absolutely massive, and really you can tackle anything in any order. No holds bar here, really. It also has my least favorite enemy ever, the Yellow Wollywog. You find the regular ones in the Forest Navel, but these jerks have double the defense of the regular ones, making them huge pains in the ass. Other than that, there are some beefier versions of enemies like the Bull Bears, which are just stronger Bulborbs. In this area, you'll also have a rematch with the Armored Cannon Beetle, who's even more of an absolute joke here because you're more likely to have reds on this rematch. Although, interestingly, this beetle actually holds the ship part when you kill it, unlike the other beetle who just had it next to his arena. Kinda weird. There is one boss in this area, however, that is the absolute bane of my existence. This asshole, the Smoky Prog. He's only available if you play the Distant Spring before day 15, but if you do, be prepared to crack your controller in half. This is a poisonous enemy, and no Pikmin resist poison in this game. It's insta-kill. You'll be losing Pikmin like crazy. You won't even know they're dead until you throw them by accident. But if you do manage to kill this beast, you get what looked like a golden pearl in the Wii or GameCube version, but kind of just looks like this weird, gross flesh ball now. But whatever it is, it gives you 100 Pikmin for the trouble. Overall, the Distant Spring is a comfortable challenge that will test you on how you can divide and conquer with your Pikmin. But you will notice that you'll only have 29 out of 30 parts when you finish this area. That's right, there's one more area to explore.
I mean, I did mention 5 areas beforehand. Come on, man, wake up.
Alright, I kid, but there is one last area to visit. The Final Trial, which is the most linear area in the game. What's important is this holds the final boss, Emperor Bulblax, who can be quite challenging if you don't know what you're doing. Really, the challenge is...
Counter and move. Counter and move. Counter and move.
Yeah, what Apollo said. Throw bombs to stun him, making him slap his own tongue and raise hell with the Reds. Play it safe, because this motherfucker can somehow fly, but with enough skillful bomb throws, he goes down no problem and drops the final part, a piggy bank, or the secret safe. When you carry it back, you'll get yourself the best ending of Pikmin. Olimar says his goodbyes to the Pikmin, and they've learned a bit too, being able to fight on their own and will prosper on this planet. We also see a bunch of other onions fly into space with the dolphin, colors of Pikmin we didn't even see on our journey, suggesting there's more to see in this place. But with that, Olimar goes to hyperdrive and sets off for Hakatate. Yeah, next time watch out for rocks, jackass. Now, remember how I said that some parts weren't necessary? Well, there's actually 5 parts that you don't need to get in order to get the normal ending. If you make it to day 30 with at least these 25 required parts, you'll get the normal ending, where Olimar takes off without getting to say goodbye to the Pikmin, wondering where he went off to. It's kind of melancholic, really. Oh, but then there's the ending where you don't get all 25 required parts, which is absolutely hilarious. He tries to leave and this happens. Bro just crashes, and the Pikmin take him to their onion, making him a human Pikmin hybrid, which is just kind of goofy looking. But really, I'd say if you can, go for the best ending. I mean, keep in mind, 30 parts means you really only have to get 1 part per day to make real progress, which I think even a newbie could do. I beat the game in 13 days, but that's only because I did the Smoky Prog fight. On my first file I did before this, I did it in 12. But listen, don't let my low numbers deter ya. If you take the full 20 days the first time, it's okay. The game's meant to be replayed over and over to get better. It's arcade-styled in that way. You experiment with doing things in different order, and that's really what I love about Pikmin, is it's so replayable in terms of how you want to go about doing each day. But now we gotta kind of talk some of the bad stuff. Now, no, don't worry. There's not much. But let's get into it. This game's visuals have kind of aged poorly. This was that early GameCube weirdness where a lot of that SGI realness look was still in for a bit. Really, I think this game fits in more with N64 titles like Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time than it does anything that came out in the GameCube later on. It's kind of similar to Melee's look actually, and I like this look a lot myself, but I could see how a lot of people it could be a turn off. And then there's another thing, the Pikmin AI. Even with the Switch version making the AI a lot better than the GameCube and Wii version, there is still the issue of Pikmin acting like 3-year-olds at times. Yeah, it's really not fun to deal with at times. There's also an issue with the GameCube version not letting you select which Pikmin you want to use while you're holding them, which is annoying, but I would really just recommend you play the Switch version because it's now the most widely available version on a console that sold more than 3 units.
It's okay, GameCube, I still love you.
Plus, at this point, I'm pretty sure people are more likely to own Switches than they do Wiis. But yeah, overall, aside from those little issues I had with the game, it's still really solid.
So that was Pikmin, definitely one of Nintendo's more out there series. And I'm sure glad that they did it because it's what got me into a lot of real-time strategy and real-time strategy-like games. You know, Pikmin for a new series from Nintendo did sell pretty decent, and with success came sequels. We eventually got Pikmin 2. And then later on in the Wii's generation, we got Pikmin re-released on the way with motion controls. And then they ported Pikmin 2 as well. And then like 10 years later, we got Pikmin 3 finally. And then that got a port on a successful console. You know, it's no Doom, but it's on its way.
引っこ抜かれてあなただけについてゆく今日も運ぶ戦う増えるそして食べられるほったかさ